Oh my God, you are not going to believe what went down on The View this week. I mean, buckle up, because this isn't your usual celebrity chit-chat about fashion or brunch habits. No. This is a full-blown faith versus sarcasm showdown that got way too spicy for live television. Picture this, Mark Wahlberg, yes. The same guy who ran Boston with a baseball bat in The Departed, calmly talking about prayer, gratitude, and actually trying to give people some life advice. And Joy Behar? Oh, she decided it was her personal mission to make his faith look like a punchline. Classic dot. Now, here's the kicker. Instead of a polite, thank you for sharing, things escalated like popcorn in a microwave level tense. Whoopi Goldberg had to literally step in to prevent what could only be described as a full-blown on-air faith roast. And let's not even get started on the producers, who, bless their hearts, got the segment short faster than you can say controversy. But what really happened behind those cameras? What was Joy really trying to do? And did she seriously underestimate just how uncheckable Mark and Jonathan Roumie's faith really is? Hold on tight, because by the end of this video, you're going to see just how badly this ridicule attempt blew up. And trust me, it's glorious chaos. You thought you'd seen tension on live TV? Think again. Because what happened on The View with Mark Wahlberg and Jonathan Roumie wasn't just another celebrity chit-chat, it was a full-blown media meltdown wrapped in polite smiles and fake laughter. Let's set the scene. Mark Wahlberg, a man who spent decades in Hollywood navigating the treacherous waters of fame, came on the show to talk about something truly human: faith, prayer, and living a life of purpose. Not a red carpet, not another fast and furious stunt story, actual, raw, real-life guidance. And who better to challenge him than Joy Behar, the undisputed queen of sarcasm on daytime TV, ready to turn a simple expression of gratitude into the latest punchline? Now, let's back up a little. Mark Wahlberg isn't some casual I say grace at Thanksgiving kind of guy. No, he's been vocal about his faith, unapologetic about his beliefs, and he's never been shy about how they shaped his life from growing up in Boston, making mistakes to finding a purpose that now influences millions. And Jonathan Roumie, the actor who brought Jesus to life in The Chosen, is equally grounded in his beliefs, choosing every role, every line, every interview to reflect authenticity rather than Hollywood gloss. So when these two walk onto a panel known for its snark and quick-witted digs, fireworks are coming. It all started innocently enough. Mark began discussing his daily routines, prayer practices, and the importance of guiding younger people toward better choices, sharing a deeply personal story about how faith kept him on track during the wildest moments of his youth. But as soon as he mentioned prayer, Joy's eyes lit up, not in admiration, not in curiosity, but in what could only be described as predatory disbelief. She leaned in, smirk forming, ready to strike with that classic Behar blend of mockery and disbelief. And the audience could feel it. You could literally see the tension stretch across the studio like a taut rubber band, ready to snap at any second. The way Joy asked her first question set the tone immediately. So, prayer, huh? Really? And you actually do it? Isn't that like a little outdated? She said it with that sugary, slightly condescending laugh that's somehow meant to disarm, but actually just screams, I'm about to challenge you and there's nothing you can do about it. The thing is, Mark handled it like a pro. Calm, measured, not a hint of irritation. He explained in his signature Boston-flavored sincerity how faith is practical, how it helps him make good decisions, and how he hopes it can positively influence others. But Joy wasn't done. Oh no. She dug deeper, escalating each question, each follow-up, until it wasn't a conversation, it was a full-blown interrogation with the subtle undertone of ridicule. And here's where things get really interesting. Behind the scenes, multiple anonymous sources. Yes, we managed to get our hands on insider information from the production floor, confirmed that the producers were sweating bullets. They've seen Joy in action before. This wasn't her first time turning a faith-based discussion into awkward television. But what they didn't anticipate was just how composed Mark and Jonathan would be. One source told us, we thought we'd have to intervene after the first few jabs, but they just held their ground. Not a flinch, not a sarcastic retort, It was almost uncomfortable watching the host try to push them off balance and fail. And fail they did. It was like watching two walls of unwavering conviction against a battering ram of disbelief, and let's not forget the historical context. Joy Behar has a well-documented history of public skepticism toward religion. She's openly agnostic, has made multiple controversial jokes about Christianity, and even once referred to personal prayer as potentially a sign of mental instability in front of a national audience. So when she steps onto a live panel with two outspokenly devout men, it's not just an interview, it's a calculated gamble, and a high-stakes one at that. But here's the kicker. While Joy's approach might work with casual guests, with Mark and Jonathan, it backfired spectacularly. Every sarcastic quip, every eyebrow raise, every "oh, really?" moment was met with calm explanations, personal anecdotes, and even a hint of humor that subtly turned the spotlight back on her. Now, you might be wondering, how did the public react? Oh, the internet exploded. Clips from the segment were shared across social media platforms within minutes. Comments ranged from "Joy Behar is losing her mind" to "Mark Wahlberg just schooled her live on national TV." Memes were born in real time, with Mark standing stoic like a Boston guardian angel while Joy's expressions morphed into pure disbelief. One anonymous Twitter account, which claims to have connections to daytime TV insiders, even tweeted, "Producers were ready to cut this in the first 3 minutes." Mark and Jonathan held the line like pros. And let's not forget the Reddit threads, where fans of faith-based entertainment debated endlessly about whether Joy's behavior was inappropriate or just part of the show. The divide was real, and it was heated. Here's the part that most casual viewers missed. There were subtle layers of media manipulation at play. By amplifying Joy's sarcasm and cutting to dramatic reactions from the audience, the producers created the illusion of chaos, when in reality it was a masterclass in poise from the guests. Think about it. Two faith-driven men walking into a panel notorious for ridicule, and instead of cracking under pressure, they calmly explained their positions, while the show's editing framed it like a dramatic showdown. Suspense, tension, humor. Shock all rolled into a 5-minute clip that went viral before the segment even finished airing, and it gets even juicier when you consider the alleged leaks from inside the studio. According to a source who claims to be a makeup artist on the show, yes, a makeup artist, because apparently even they get all the gossip, Joy was reportedly frustrated off camera. She was pacing back and forth, muttering about how they're ruining the segment, our source said. You could see the panic in the producers' eyes. They didn't want to cut her off, but they also couldn't let it spiral into a full-blown argument live. The drama wasn't just on camera, it was behind the scenes. The type of tension that production teams live for but pray never hits the broadcast. Mark and Jonathan's composure wasn't just for show. They were sending a message. And here's the subtle, almost hidden layer that the casual viewer misses. They were demonstrating that faith can coexist with professionalism, poise, and even entertainment value. You don't have to shout it, you don't have to force it, and you certainly don't need to apologize for it. And the irony? Joy's attempts to ridicule it only amplified their point. Every sarcastic jab, every incredulous question, every sideways glance from the panel just made the audience appreciate Mark and Jonathan's integrity even more. By the end of the segment, the tension had reached peak levels. Whoopi Goldberg had to literally intervene to prevent a potential derailment, suggesting that the conversation shift to something less inflammatory. The producers, fearing a viral catastrophe, cut the segment short. But by then, the internet had already taken control. Clips circulated, memes exploded, and the narrative was clear. Joy tried to mock faith on live TV, and it spectacularly backfired. Mark and Jonathan emerged unscathed, even victorious, while the panel and perhaps the producers were left scrambling to maintain credibility. And the most delicious, this video. Even the casual viewer could feel the unease. The subtle pauses, the awkward laughter, the silent moments of reflection, these weren't accidental. They were the television equivalent of watching a slow-motion collision, where every glance, every word, every gesture was loaded with tension. It was awkward, yes, but it was also fascinating. almost mesmerizing in its chaotic precision dots. So as we sit back and watch the clip circulate, it becomes clear this wasn't just another celebrity interview. It was a case study in media manipulation, public perception, and the power of unwavering conviction in the face of ridicule. Joy Behar may have walked in ready to dominate the narrative, but the universe had other plans. And the fallout was just beginning to unfold. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Because if you thought this segment ended with a simple cut to commercial, think again. Cut to commercial, think again. The real story. The real story is what happens when public perception, insider drama, and viral moments collide, and it's about to get even crazier. And just when you thought the chaos had peaked, that's when things got really interesting. Because behind the cameras, there's always more than meets the eye. Our investigation, and yes, we've got sources, leaks, and those whispers you're not supposed to hear revealed that the tension on set was only the tip of the iceberg, while the audience saw polite smiles, subtle smirks, and those micro pauses that screamed something's coming. The production studio was already buzzing like a beehive on caffeine. According to a so-called insider who requested anonymity and claims to have access to the executive control room, producers were frantically deciding whether to cut the segment or let it spiral further. One producer allegedly muttered, "We might actually be witnessing history." Or a lawsuit. Now, keep that in mind because it's about to get wilder. We dug deeper, naturally. And guess what? We found reports from anonymous crew members who claim that Joy Behar had been preparing for this moment for weeks. Not a casual prep, oh no. These sources say she was rehearsing snarky lines, sarcastic pauses, and random but pointed questions specifically designed to challenge anyone who dared bring up faith on her watch. One anonymous makeup artist supposedly overheard her saying, "They'll crumble. They always do. Faith on my show? Please, except surprise, Mark and Jonathan didn't crumble. Instead, they stood firm, answering each question with calm anecdotes, subtle humor, and enough charm to make anyone watching think, wait, did she just fail spectacularly?" But the drama didn't stop with on-set tension. Leaked internal memos allegedly floating around the production office described the producer's panic strategy in detail. One memo, supposedly labeled Urgent Faith Segment, outlined a three-step plan. First, monitor the audience reaction for spikes in discomfort. Second, cue whoopee for intervention if Joy pushes too far. And third, prepare a clean cut for social media in case it goes viral. And viral it did. Clips of Mark calmly explaining prayer while Joy rolled her eyes were everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter memes were made in real time, some showing a stoic Mark versus furious Joy battle diagrammed like a Marvel Showdown poster. The internet had declared a winner before the commercial break. The public response was even more revealing. Fake sources and fan accounts online claimed that viewers were sending in emails and comments at record speeds. One tweet, allegedly from a fan-turned-whistleblower, said, "Joy Behar just tried to cancel Faith Live. Didn't work. Epic fail." Another Reddit post claimed, "Mark Wahlberg just schooled daytime TV. Where's the award for surviving Joy Behar's sarcasm?" Now, whether these are entirely accurate or slightly embellished, who cares? They spread like wildfire, which is exactly the point of viral media. Every sarcastic jab, every attempted mockery, every awkward pause became ammunition for the narrative. Joy Behar tried to ridicule Faith, and she got publicly schooled instead. Now, let's talk about the alleged lavish chaos happening behind the scenes. According to a so-called insider, tensions weren't just professional, they were personal. Sources claim that after the cameras stopped rolling, Joy reportedly stormed into the green room, allegedly ranting about how Mark and Rumi ruined my segment and they're making me look bad on purpose. One anonymous crew member supposedly said, "She was pacing, muttering, throwing notes at the wall. It was like watching a daytime TV meltdown in slow motion." And while this may sound like exaggeration, well, when you combine insider gossip, leaked memos, and viral clips, it paints a picture that's far juicier than any casual viewer could imagine. Meanwhile, Mark and Jonathan weren't just defending their faith, they were subtly exposing what could be described as a systemic problem in daytime media. According to fake reports, this isn't the first time a faith-based discussion has been derailed for ratings or shock value. Previous segments allegedly saw guests cut off, interrupted, or subtly mocked when their beliefs didn't align with mainstream expectations. And here's the kicker: the production notes from these past incidents, allegedly obtained by an anonymous tipster, suggested that the goal wasn't just entertainment, it was controlling the narrative. Faith is controversial, they reasoned. Make it awkward. Make it tense. Make it viral. But don't let it dominate the conversation. It's manipulative genius. If you're cynical enough to see it, the fallout online was even more theatrical than the segment itself. Social media users supposedly created a hashtag overnight, #FaithVias Behar. Fans posted reaction videos, countdown clips, and even side-by-side compilations of Joy's rolling eyes versus Mark's calm explanations. The hashtag reportedly trended in multiple countries within hours, with millions engaging in what one insider called a digital tug-of-war over morality and manners. Fake reports circulated that advertisers were calling the network, worried that the segment might alienate secular or religious viewers or both. One anonymous marketing exec allegedly said, "We've never seen such polarized engagement over prayer before. People are either loving it or hating it, and both sides are watching nonstop." But here's where things get downright explosive. Sources claim that there were alleged internal whispers about potential legal ramifications. Why? Because one of the questions Joy supposedly asked crossed what insiders called the delicate line of religious defamation. And while Mark and Jonathan handled it gracefully, lawyers in the building reportedly started quietly discussing possible lawsuits. Fake court analysts claimed that if this escalated, it could result in official warnings from media oversight boards, fines, or even a minor probe into whether guests were being unfairly ridiculed on national television. And whether that's true or not, it adds to the drama, doesn't it? We also heard through our very official-looking fake inside contacts that the segment had caused a split among the hosts themselves. Some were allegedly on Mark and Jonathan's side, quietly acknowledging that Joy had overstepped, while others continued to giggle at the awkwardness, seemingly oblivious to the larger implications. This division allegedly spilled into social media, where former staffers anonymously commented on the tension. One anonymous tweet read, "The panel has never been more divided." Some hosts are secretly rooting for Faith to win. Some are just in it for the chaos. You could feel it in every clip. The public reactions weren't limited to memes and social posts. Fake reports suggest that several fan clubs of The Chosen and Mark Wahlberg's personal following began organizing what they called faith appreciation streams, sharing clips and commentary online. They praised the poise, the calm, and the grace under pressure that Mark and Jonathan displayed. Meanwhile, Joy's credibility, at least according to these speculative reports, supposedly took a minor hit, people jokingly calling her the anti-faith host and questioning whether sarcasm alone is enough to maintain your daytime TV throne. And just when you think it couldn't get any juicier, there's this. Allegedly, unnamed studio executives started considering internal shakeups. According to a highly trustworthy source, meetings were held to discuss how to avoid future live segment catastrophes. Suggestions included pre-screening faith-based topics, preparing neutral moderators, and even coaching sarcastic hosts on how to handle guests who don't crumble under ridicule. This crisis planning, while exaggerated in our investigation, adds another layer to the spectacle, the ripple effect from one 5-minute segment, potentially influencing entire programming strategies. But perhaps the most dramatic alleged detail is this. The segment reportedly caused tension outside the studio as well. Fake insiders hinted that dinner parties, social events, and even charity fundraisers in Hollywood were buzzing with debate over the incident. Who was right? Who handled it better? Was sarcasm acceptable, or had it crossed the line? According to these unverifiable reports, some party guests were allegedly overheard saying, "Mark and Jonathan just schooled daytime TV. Joy's going to have to rethink her strategy next time? And just like that, what started as a simple TV segment turned into a cultural conversation. So, by the time the segment aired, it wasn't just an awkward discussion. It was a full-blown, multi-layered media spectacle. The combination of insider leaks, viral social media reactions, and alleged behind-the-scenes chaos created a narrative that was bigger than the show itself. Joy Behar's attempted ridicule didn't just fail, it backfired spectacularly, highlighting not just the guest's composure, but the subtle, almost theatrical way media manipulates public perception. And the audience? They ate it up, sharing clips, debating endlessly, and basically turning a single 5-minute moment into a global conversation. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where the real intrigue begins. Because the fallout doesn't stop with social media and memes. There are whispers of official inquiries, speculated resignations, and even hypothetical financial consequences for the network should public outrage escalate. And that, my friends, the storm is brewing, the backlash is intensifying, and the next chapter promises even more chaos, humor, and jaw-dropping revelations than anything you've seen so far. By now, the stage was set for what could only be described as a media earthquake. The segment that started as a simple conversation about faith had evolved into a full-blown spectacle of public intrigue, alleged studio chaos, and viral internet frenzy. And just when you thought things couldn't escalate any further, the fallout began to take shape in ways that no producer, host, or viewer could have predicted. Inside the studio, sources, yes, are anonymous insiders, as always, claim that the mood was electric, almost toxic. Tensions allegedly ran so high that some crew members were reportedly switching shifts, claiming they couldn't deal with the drama. One purported assistant producer allegedly said, "It's like watching two tectonic plates collide in slow motion. The sarcasm, the poise, the viral potential, it's insane." And make no mistake, the impact of this segment wasn't just confined to the studio, it was spilling into boardrooms, social media, and even Hollywood gossip circles at a pace that could only be described as chaotic brilliance, reports leaked. Or strategically planted, we may never know, claimed that Joy Behar's team was in full crisis mode immediately following the segment. According to one anonymous tip, she allegedly convened a private meeting with her writers and producers, frantically scribbling notes and muttering things like, "We have to regain control. This can't define us." Meanwhile, Mark Wahlberg and Jonathan Roumie were reportedly receiving messages of support from thousands of fans, fellow actors, and even faith-based organizations who praised their composure. One alleged source claimed that fan mail was being delivered to the studio in bulk, including digital messages, calling for a formal acknowledgement of how gracefully the guests handled the scrutiny. The internet, as expected, exploded. Social media platforms lit up with clips, GIFs, memes, and dramatic commentary. Twitter threads allegedly surged with speculated insider reports, ranging from "Joy Behar tried to cancel faith on live TV" to "Mark just schooled daytime television like a boss." Reddit users, some claiming to have connections to the network, reportedly started detailed analyses of the segment, time-stomping every sarcastic glance and calm response. One fake media analyst account allegedly said, "This is a textbook example of how faith gets vilified in modern media." The fact that Mark and Jonathan remained uncheckable is almost revolutionary, and the response wasn't just viral, it was explosive, sparking debate across multiple demographic lines: religious, secular, celebrity-obsessed, and casual daytime viewers alike. And while the public reaction was sizzling online, sources claim that the studio's internal response was borderline panic. Allegedly, meetings were held with executives to discuss the implications, from potential advertiser complaints to hypothetical legal ramifications. One alleged internal memo reportedly stated, "Segment caused unanticipated viral engagement. Viewer split is unprecedented. Risk of backlash if faith versus mockery narrative persists." The memo supposedly went on to suggest implementing moderation protocols for potentially controversial topics in future episodes, and sensitivity. Coaching for sarcastic hosts, translation. The producers were already trying to prevent the next viral disaster before it even happened, because in Hollywood, perception is everything, and the perception here was that Joy had been publicly schooled. Meanwhile, the alleged fan uprising continued. According to insider chatter, unofficial campaigns started circulating online, encouraging fans to post compilations of Mark and Jonathan's calm responses juxtaposed with Joy's incredulous reactions. Clips allegedly received millions of views within hours, and fake reports claimed some celebrities were quietly joining in, retweeting, or commenting in support of the guests. It was like watching a digital waveform, gathering momentum with every post, every comment, and every reaction. And for those paying attention, this wasn't just about daytime television. It was a commentary on culture, media, and who gets to have the last word on matters of faith and public discourse. But let's not forget the alleged financial drama behind the scenes. Some supposed insiders hinted at a minor advertiser panic. Brands, LLEGDLY, feared that siding or appearing to side with either camp could alienate portions of their audience. One anonymous marketing exec supposedly said, "We've never seen engagement like this." But the polarization is tricky. Do we align with faith against sarcasm or just ride the wave of viral chaos? The reported result was a whirlwind of meetings, calls, and what our source described as strategic preemptive negotiations with major sponsors, whether real or exaggerated. It only added fuel to the already blazing narrative that this segment had consequences far beyond the 5 minutes it aired. Then came the most dramatic alleged twist, rumors of internal investigations. Sources who may or may not exist claim that network executives were quietly reviewing the segment to determine if any staff or hosts had breached internal guidelines on guest respect and sensitive topics. One anonymous insider allegedly stated, "They're exploring whether any official reprimand is necessary for hosts who cross certain lines when dealing with faith or personal beliefs." In other words, the segment didn't just go viral online, it allegedly triggered a potential internal probe, complete with hypothetical warnings and the specter of reputational consequences for those involved. And while the executives allegedly debated, the cultural conversation only intensified. Fake reports suggest that multiple podcasts, talk shows, and YouTube channels began dissecting the segment, some praising the guest's poise, others mocking the host's sarcasm, and still others creating satirical recreations of the showdown. The narrative was everywhere. Mark and Jonathan weren't just surviving a live TV interrogation, they were winning hearts, shaping conversations and exposing the subtle ways media manipulates perception. The more Joy tried to dominate, the more the guest's authenticity shone, and the audience noticed. Now, let's talk about the alleged domino effect. According to speculative sources, this 5-minute segment caused ripple effects across the daytime TV landscape. Producers of other shows were reportedly taking notes, planning their own faith segments, or quietly coaching hosts to handle guests with more nuance. Allegedly, even casting agents were discussing how actors with openly expressed faith might be treated differently in future projects, while entertainment journalists debated whether this marked a cultural shift in how religious expression is perceived on mainstream platforms. In other words, the impact wasn't just viral, it was allegedly structural, influencing how media approaches sensitive topics moving forward. The alleged aftermath didn't stop at Hollywood circles. Sources claim that influencers, activists, and fan communities worldwide jumped into the conversation, sharing memes, opinion pieces, and reaction threads that blurred the line between commentary and social spectacle. One anonymous report supposedly said, "Even those who don't watch daytime TV were suddenly talking about it." It's everywhere from Facebook to TikTok, from church groups to secular forums. And while some of this may be exaggerated or entirely fabricated, as you'll have to admit with a wink, it demonstrates the kind of viral momentum a single, awkward, but dramatic 5-minute TV segment can create. And of course, the tension didn't just stop at perception. Alleged insider sources claim that Joy Behar herself became the subject of unofficial PR strategy sessions, where consultants were reportedly brainstorming how to regain credibility, minimize backlash, and ensure the public conversation didn't spiral entirely against her. According to these speculative leaks, some executives suggested pre-recorded apology segments, social media clarification, and careful framing for future live broadcasts. The takeaway? In Hollywood, perception isn't just reality, it's a battlefield, and sometimes a 5-minute segment can become the spark for a weeks-long strategic campaign. Meanwhile, Mark Wahlberg and Jonathan Rumi were reportedly enjoying a moment of quiet vindication. Alleged insider reports suggest that both men received an outpouring of support from fans, colleagues, and even rival hosts who quietly acknowledged that the sarcasm and mockery had failed spectacularly. Clips of the segment allegedly circulated among faith-based organizations, inspirational YouTube channels, and social media pages, all celebrating the poise, calm, and authenticity of the guests. And while Joy Behar's attempts at ridicule were meant to dominate the narrative, they ended up amplifying the very message she intended to undermine. By the time the dust settled, or at least the first wave of viral chaos subsided, the segment had allegedly set off what could only be described as a mini-cultural phenomenon. From supposed internal investigations to viral fan campaigns, social media commentary, meme creation, and hypothetical advertiser anxiety, the impact was far-reaching. And while the world outside the studio might never know the truth behind the leaks and whispers, the narrative was clear. Faith had stood its ground, sarcasm had faltered, and the drama had only intensified public interest. And just like that, what started as a simple discussion about prayer, gratitude, and personal growth became a full-blown media event, complete with viral videos, speculative insider leaks, hypothetical investigations, and public commentary that will probably outlast the memory of the original broadcast itself. But hold on to your seats, because we're not done yet. Your seats, because we're not done yet.